Don't let a DUI charge ruin your life. Get a professional and confidential evaluation from our experienced team at True Heights Treatment. Our evaluations are accepted by the majority of courts in the state of Illinois and provide a comprehensive assessment of your substance use patterns and potential treatment needs. Get the help you need today and start your path to a brighter future. Contact us now to schedule your evaluation at 708-248-7039 or at thtdui.com.
The George Brassey podcast is made possible with funding provided from Brassey Global Strategies, LLC, a leading political consulting, public policy, government affairs, and research firm. Are you interested in running for elected office? Need advice? Call or email George, 708-769-5015. Brassey Global Strategies 1 at gmail.com.
Hey everyone, it's George. I'm so glad to welcome my friend and colleague, Trustee Camiella Williams from the Prairie State College Board of Trustees to the podcast. Trustee Williams, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Alderman George, for having me on your show.
Trustee Williams, you didn't become trustee overnight. And can you take us back and tell us how you became an activist and where did your interest in serving the community begin?
Yes, so coming up March 3rd will be 17 years that I dedicated my life to organizing activism to better my community. In the beginning, I didn't really have a true idea. So over the past few years, I've learned. But it all started when my neighbor, Starkeisha Reed, was shot getting ready for school. And that right there, shook me. I got tired of the violence going on in my community. I got tired of feeling like no one was doing anything. So I tried to do what I thought was best. Living in West Inglewood, south side of Chicago, it was not safe for my family, my mom thought. So we moved out to the south suburbs. And for me, I enrolled as a student at Prairie State College. And I honestly say that Prairie State College saved my life because not only just going there to get an education, but just being a part of the student clubs. When I got there, I knew okay, after school, I can't drive back to the city. I got to keep myself busy. And I really didn't know anybody out here like that. So I joined student government. Former staff, Sean Smith, was like, hey, would you like to be on student government? I'm like, no one knows me, but I tried out and I tried it out and I became a student senator. And that also intersected with some things that I was trying to do in the community to address gun violence, fight for violence prevention.
Let's take us back, Trustee Williams. How old were you when your friend was killed?
I was 18. I just had turned 18.
So, and that was a really profound moment, very traumatic, I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Starkeisha's death was my wake up. And that's when I understood that violence was not normal. Because although when I was 7, I would hear gunshots. I had a teacher that was killed when I was in 3rd grade. So you think is normal, but when you actually see somebody that you know should not have been murdered getting ready for school, and you watched her walk with her older siblings to school with y'all. I was more Starkeisha's, I want to say, brother's age, maybe a year or two or something like that. But she was most definitely younger than us. But to actually see that she was actually getting ready for school, she was an honor student, she was going to school. She wasn't in the community like a lot of us was, doing extra activities in the community. It was man, this should not be. And then less than 2 weeks later, the person who lived on the next block for me on 70th and 70th and right off Damon, she was shot at a birthday party. And I'm like, okay, these are children. Forget the ones that's out here, selling illegal substances, robbing people. These are actually children that's being murdered that should have had a future.
Trustee Williams, when you first start with your kind of awareness and your activism, what is the reception like in the community?
Like it is now. Like, you have to educate people. I even had to become educated on different root causes. For me, it was just like, okay, poverty. But then you looked at gun laws, then you looked at education, then you looked at the mental and trauma aspects of it. But in the beginning, it was just like I felt unheard. And even 17 years now, I still feel unheard about how violence have impacted people, right? How it has traumatized people, how it's not a lot of help. I mean, even in my capacity as a trustee or a community organizer, I'm still losing family, I'm still losing friends, I'm still losing students. I'm still being traumatized, even when you try not to be traumatized. That's why I can relate to a lot of the students in our school at Prairie State, a lot of the students in the high schools, a lot of students in the city, a lot of students across the world.
You study under Father Flager?
So yes, I am a Saint Simona graduate. But being a student there is like, you ain't thinking about no community organizing. I'm not even getting ready to sit up here and say, oh, I was so into it. I actually used to go against Father Mike. Like, why do we have a class as a protest class? I don't care. I mean, I was 13, I was 14, I was a child. Although I was living in communities that was going through so much violence, so much poverty. I remember Father Mike used to get mad that we used to eat flaming hots and cookies and candy in the morning. He shut down the candy store. I'm like, see, you always in somebody else's business. And I had to understand that you can't put that stuff in your body that early in the morning. So I used to challenge him, but I did get my first look at what organizing really was from Saint Sabina. And when I called him after we lost Star, and I said, I gotta do something, and I cried on the phone, and he was like, come back home, come back to Saint Sabina. I will help you organize. I got connected with I Care. Further known now is Brave Youth. So I started doing youth advocacy, the Illinois Safety Network. So yes.
And then, Trustee Williams, you also were very active during the Laquan McDonald
Yeah.
trial. Can you
I
speak a little bit about what that did and how that
yeah.
was like for you?
First, I'm just gonna tell people I am kind of traumatized behind that whole fight, and it's because it although I supported families who lost children to violence, I also support families who lost children to police violence. And so when after the trial of Rakia Boyd, when former officer was acquitted based off technicalities, Jamie Kelvin released the autopsy report of Laquan McDonald, and we came across Will Calloway, who was very instrumental, and he called me and said, "Hey sis, I want you to look at something." I said, "Okay, what you sending me?" He sent me the autopsy report, and so I got to reading what the autopsy report said, but also what the news had said. And then also I remembered, because I was down in Ferguson with Mike Brown's situation, how 2013, 2024, with the body cams and the dashboard footage. And I said, I think we should go after the tape. And he was like, you right. And I was like, you think we're going to win? He was like, man, it's Chicago. We don't know. So he was like, I'm going to foul for it. So he told me he was going to foul for the tape. They denied it. Then that's when Brandon came on board, the other journalist, and we got to win the releasing of the tape. It was a lot of backlash. What are y'all doing? Y'all trying to cause an uprising? No, we're trying to find out what actually happened. We're trying to find out how we can change the system that needs to be changed, and also hold, because I do know that a lot of people just don't want to talk about police accountability. Yes, there is some great police officers, but there are also some terrible officers. So I'm like, let's hold the bad officers accountable, just like we're holding those who shoot and kill in our community accountable. So we fought, and I remember going to court, to the federal Durston building, sitting in the courtroom, and to our surprise, we won the releasing of the tape. But even still, just the things that happened with, once the tape was released, the back and forth to court, the sentencing that we feel was not just, um, being able to come home, politicians using Laquan McDonald's story to be elected, and then when they get in office, they don't do, they have amnesia. So that's why I'm kind of traumatized behind that. But I have seen some changes, and I've, with police accountability in Chicago and moving across Illinois. It's not a lot, but it's a small.
Trustee, you played such an interesting role in that history there.
Yeah, like I said, I have to deal with a lot of healing, because to me, it wasn't just a political move. For me, it was me fighting for a family who, and despite what the troubles his mother and father had, so what? Laquan life mattered just like everybody else. He could have been helped, right? I just had a mom who, in a family, who moved me out of the city and gave me the resources that I needed when I lost my father at a young age. So I didn't count Laquan out. And I remember, as I came out of the courtroom for the sentencing, and I was doing a national news coverage was covering me, and they asked me how did I feel. I just broke down crying and just said, my sons, we have to do something to save our young people. We have to prevent what happened to Laquan, what happened to Blair Hope, what happened to my cousin this past August of 2022. We have to prevent that.
Trustee Williams, you talked about some of the reforms around policing. Do you have any thoughts on the criminal justice reform that was such a big topic in the last election cycle?
I,
The
I'm just
Safety Act?
I'm just gonna be honest with you. It was rushed. It wasn't thought out, and they didn't have many survivors at the table. We're talking like they just didn't. And you cannot move at the beat of just trying to please the public. You have to move at what's effective. And you have to listen to the people who have experienced stuff. Like, I believe that Safety T Act, that police accountability should have had its own entity. And then also, and I'm going to say it, and I don't care who gets upset, you have to show prevention methods and violence prevention solutions first. Stop pointing the blame at everybody else. Show them solutions. And a lot of those elected officials that supported that Safety T Act, I can look them in their eyes and tell them, what solutions have you supported and fought for? This budget that come from ICESIA, y'all put so much red tape for organizations like myself and other organizations that's going broke to help the people.
Trustee Williams, can you're back up for re-election. Can you talk a little bit about your first term in office, some of the things that you're proud of, some of the things that you still hope to accomplish if the voters give you a second term?
Yes, I will always, and I'm gonna say this humbly, I always believe is what's for me will be for me. If it's for me to be reelected, I will continue to serve the people. If I'm not elected, I will continue to serve the people, because this is something that I was chosen to do. Things that I'm proud of at Prairie State is just helping young people be able to graduate. We had people who could not graduate, just getting the fire and safety school. We had a groundbreaking for that in Matson. The WIA program, that is huge for a lot of young people. It's so much stuff I would like to do, more so being more active in the community, and inviting the community in to actually feel like this is also a safety net for them, right? Community that want to hold community events. The basketball tournament that we did with Bloom Township, we did with HF and other schools that want to participate. That brought joy to me, that at that moment, we have had so many young people in that gym and they were safe in the Southland. Let's be honest, the Southland does not have a lot for young people to actually do. A community that I live at, we don't even have a community center. And I live in Glenwood. I'm still trying to find it.
Trustee Williams, can you talk a little bit about your slate mates and your slate, your team that's running for office?
Yes, so Michelle Adonia, she's fairly new, but I do know that she have the background to continue to add input. It's about adding input and us coming together as a collective to actually move forward as a college. So she has a strong background. I understand her passion for the school, her passion for young people, her passion for education, and we need that, right? She don't come off as just, this is just going to be an opportunity for me to just come and just to put on my resume. She truly wants to move the college forward. She want to help people. Dr. Teresa, her and I have allies just working in the community, working to move our community forward when it comes to justice, when it comes to violence prevention, when it comes to young people. So I haven't sat on a board with Dr. Teresa yet, but I do know her work will also help us move the college forward. It's about moving the college forward. It's about protecting students, protecting staff, protecting faculty members, so that we can create a better working condition so that they can be able to teach. When faculty and staff is not supported in a school setting, it's hard for our students to be educated because they're not mentally there if they don't feel supported.
Trustee Williams, the last question we always ask our guests are, what are 2 books that have been important to you as a person, and why?
So I'm a fan of W.E.B. Du Bois. I've been a fan of his work because I'm in love with education. I'm in love with learning and knowledge. But when I went to Ghana, I took some young people to Ghana. We spent time in Accra and we spent time in Cape Coast. I was actually able to visit W.E.B. Du Bois' mansion where his remains is buried. And the soul of a Black person is so deep because it also let us know who we are. And when I went to Ghana, I've learned about my history in school, but to actually see it, to actually see the door of no return, to actually retrace the steps of my ancestor, it was powerful for me. And then it also gave me a reality check, because I used to say, it couldn't have been me. I couldn't have been a slave. Oh no, they would have had to kill me. But as I walked and retraced those steps, I said, if I would have gave up, and if I was my ancestors, I wouldn't have been here. So I recognize that I am standing on the shoulders of my ancestors. I'm standing on the shoulders of those who fought to go to college, for those who fought to vote. That's why I'm organizing young people in Chicago, and I want to do the same thing in the Southland. Get out and vote. People died for this right. Go to school, pick up a book. So I'm glad you asked me that question. And then Michelle Alexander, the new Jim Crow, because just basically understanding for me just things that I've done before I made my transition over for change, just understanding that mass incarceration is just another form of slavery. And when you understand that, you do better as a person. You make better decisions.
Trustee Williams, tell the audience where they could find you online and when the election is.
I could be found on Facebook. I really don't utilize other like Instagram or anything, but my name, Camiella Williams, is open. And then my re-election is April 4th, 2023. I would love to have people votes, and also not just pass votes. If you have a youth group and if you're trying to organize in the community, especially in the Southland, because we actually need it, because our young people need us, please reach out. I don't have all the answers, but I have some answers, and together we can make a difference.
Trustee Williams, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.
Help George stay on the Chicago Heights City Council. Go and donate today at tinyurl.com/AldermanGeorge 2023.
Begin to transform your life and work towards inner peace with expert psychotherapy. At True Heights Treatment, our experienced therapists provide personalized, compassionate care to help you overcome life's challenges and reach your goals. Whether you're struggling with depression, anxiety, relationship issues, or other mental health concerns, our team is here to support you. With a warm and welcoming in-person and virtual office atmosphere and a commitment to person-centered and evidence-based treatments, we are dedicated to helping you address your life's challenges. Contact us now to schedule your first session at 708-248-7039 or online at trueheightstx.com. Book your appointment today and start your journey towards a happier, healthier life.
Need more George? Like his pages on Facebook. Friends of George Brassey PAC, Fifth Ward Business Alliance, Chicago Heights Bicycle and Pedestrian Resource Center, and the George Brassey Podcast.